levels. I wonder who we can get.
Are we already live?
We were. Well, I mean, we are, but I haven't like. I had us muted the entire time we were
Okay.
talking.
Oh, okay.
So now we're testing out the
Well,
levels.
that's a terrible thing to talk about. I'm like,
Thank God nobody heard that.
Alright, so can you guys hear us? Because
are
right now we're just...
Are we unmuted now?
Yeah, we're unmuted now.
Oh.
So we're unmuted now. Okay, so can you all hear us? Right now we're just testing the levels because last time there was a little
Technical
difficulties where everyone had turned up their volume to 11. So
like Spinal Tap the shit out of this.
So let me see if I can test it there.
Testing.
can you all hear us? Can you all hear us?
Can you hear me? I'm usually the loudest one. And if you can't hear me, then that's not good.
It's like, yeah, hop into the app real quick and then I'll mute it and then. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, there might be a slight delay.
YouTube, yes?
Huh?
YouTube,
yes. So it is picking up quite a bit.
There's one watching. Is that you out there?
No, because
it's possibly me or.
It's probably bugs because I haven't gotten. It's not showing that it's live yet for me. Oh, there it goes. Okay, I'm gonna turn it down. It's like halfway. Yeah, I think that's pretty good.
It's all the way up on mine.
All the way up?
Yeah.
Oh my God. All the way up?
Yeah, now it's all the way up on mine.
Okay, let's try
this is me talking at a normal level.
Let's try it again.
Yeah, we need to raise it a little bit.
I can raise it up as much as possible.
Testing. 1, 2, 3. Should I sing something?
Something that's not copyrighted.
Well, it's me singing it.
We don't have the rights.
We don't have the rights to me singing anything. I'm just kidding. You are my body.
Oh my God. Alright, how about that? Is that good?
Oh wow! You can hear it like
Echoing?
yeah.
Oh wow, oh wow.
Wow.
Oh wow. Oh wow. Oh wow.
Like really? Okay. I'm gonna try to raise it up as much as possibly I can because this thing is.
Should we all just like lean into the microphone?
I mean, we could.
But I'm lazy.
It's literally in front of you.
I'm kidding.
Okay.
What to
so,
sit on?
I mean, this thing is all the way up.
Hey.
So.
She's like, don't burn.
Unless I change the mic setting. No, I mean, I feel like it still hears us all. So. Turn it off. I don't like hearing myself. Got into the wrong business.
For real. I was about to say, I was like, really?
Alright.
Let me turn off the sound so I can still read if we do have anyone come into the chats. The chats.
You just passed out.
Is that... Oh.
So we're just gonna wait, I guess, a little bit until some people join us, and then we can start the show.
We could. get started.
We have 3 people in the chat.
Yeah, 3 people in the chat. But
Hi, 3 people in the chat.
hello. Oh, now 2 people in the chat.
Aww. Hi, 2 people in the chat.
One of them's me.
Ah,
Hi, 1 person that's not Oscar in the chat.
Bugs.
maybe.
Dan.
Alright. Well, I finally found.
Okay, so your dog's diet and flatulence. Diet is one of the leading causes of dog farts, according to veterinarians. Certain food groups, such as indigestible carbohydrates, lead to gas, and foods and treats that have a high meat content can create truly foul-smelling farts.
You might want to explain while we're talking about dog farts.
Right now, we're joined by, we'll say it's a guest. Her name is Lucy. She's a dog. And she keeps farting. Really bad farts.
Like, rank ones, man. Jeez.
Like, it's funny because I'll be holding her, and then all of a sudden I'll just feel this little puff of air on my hand.
Ew.
And it's never pleasant.
Nope.
All right, so I guess we can go and get started. Let me go back to the app. And okay, I guess we'll get started. All right. How do we usually start this thing? I always forget.
Hey, everybody. Hi, Dr. Nick.
All right, so I'm Oscar.
I'm Jenny.
Now Bugs.
And we're the New Nostalgia Podcast. So we're going to go and get started. It's been like probably the least amount of time that we've taken a break for. So
That's
it's pretty
true.
good on
That's
us.
very true.
And we were saying that we wanted to kind of keep this going weekly, which is something we still plan on doing. But,
I've been away.
well, yeah, I think it's like, because it's summertime. So I think one week I went to Brownsville. The other week you went to Brownsville,
Yeah.
our hometown. And now we're back. So now we're recording again. So what we can get into is what we've been watching, listening to, and reading.
You go first, Oscar.
I'll go first. Okay. So I've been watching, now that Game of Thrones is over, and I'm trying to figure out if I want to keep
You're trying to figure out what to do with your
what to do with the HBO account. It's really not my account, it's my parents' account, but you know, that's neither here nor there. But I'm like, okay, is it something that I should really keep watching? So I've been watching a couple of other shows that HBO's been putting out. The first is Euphoria, which stars Zendaya and then a bunch of other people I don't know. But it's actually been okay. It's a little bit intense. It's like it's like Degrassi on steroids type of thing.
Wow.
That's how I feel about it. Yeah, it's like it's really heavy subject matter, and it's kind of like it's a little bit like risque, especially because most of it takes place or happens to teens. So it's like you watch it and you're like, oh, this is kind of crazy. And the other one I've been watching is the second season of Big Little Lies, I think it's called.
I need to watch that show.
And it's pretty good. It's all right. But it's not Game of Thrones, unfortunately. It's not the same.
Right.
I've been listening to just a bunch of like, because now Spotify has this new feature where if you like a whole bunch, like pretty much like if you have a whole bunch of playlists, you can like all the songs in your playlist, and it kind of gives you kind of like what your iPod used to have, where it was like all the songs that you listen to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So I've been
noticed that.
Yeah.
I've been just like going through all the songs that have been there on my playlist and just listening to those, and it's kind of like I feel like this summer I haven't really been into finding new bands. I've been more into just like listening to stuff, you know, nostalgia podcasts or whatever. But I've been listening to stuff, from, middle school, high school, college, and like pretty much everything that I've liked in the past. So I really haven't been in the mood to look for something new. Just like this summer isn't that summer. And I've been listening to, let's see. I think I listened to a new podcast.
Because the last one you had talked about was No Sleep and
Yeah.
Which I started listening to.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucking creepy. I listened to one episode during the day at home, and that's all I could think about at night. I was like, God damn it.
I found a new podcast called This Is Uncomfortable from the podcast network called Marketplace, and it's an interesting kind of podcast. It's pretty much about trying to make people. It's actually a financial podcast. It's people talking about money, you know, and how that can make most of us uncomfortable.
Oh, okay.
And it's just like different stories and different things.
Taboo financial.
Yeah, where it's like people don't like to talk about how broke they are, or, you know, that type of thing. And it's a really interesting podcast too. So that's what I've been up to.
Cool.
What have you been up to, Jenny?
I have usually in the summer, I tend to end up watching a lot of the shows that used to be on like Nick at Night when we were little. So like, do you remember how Nick at Night used to have like on Monday it was the Munsters, Tuesday was I Love Lucy, 3 was like Wednesday was like I Dream of Jeannie, and so on and so forth.
Brady Bunch.
Yeah. So I've been watching a lot of I Love Lucy and stuff, but even though I always watch a lot of I Love Lucy, but I think since I had been at home and things like that, I was feeling extra nostalgic. So I was watching I Love Lucy. I was watching like Munsters with my dad. My dad loves the Munsters, and like Beverly Hillbillies and things like that.
Yeah.
When it comes to stuff to listen to, I've been listening to a lot of the podcasts that you were recommending. Like I just said, I was listening to the No Sleep podcast, and those were really interesting. I like it because of how they're read. They are read out loud like a story, or like, because they're from Reddit. It's from the No Sleep part thing, right?
Oh,
yeah.
God.
From Reddit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why
you guys should have led with that. I mean,
that's why it's called No Sleep.
Oh God, I thought it was just like commonly like used because.
No.
It's from the No Sleep forum on Reddit.
I think when the podcast started, this is the impression I've gotten, and I could be wrong, but when the podcast started, that's how it started, where it was reading all the really popular posts on the No Sleep Reddit, r/No Sleep. But I think now, like if you listen to the podcasts now, I think that I think it's half of that, and it's like the other part of it is there are stories being written for the podcast itself. Now. Okay.
Sorry, excuse me. Sorry, guys. No, I started from the very beginning. Usually when I start something new, especially if it's been going on for a long time, I like to start it from the beginning. So that's what I did. And we were like, what episode are you watching? And I was like, I'm listening to from the very beginning. You're like, whoa!
Yeah.
So.
I didn't do that.
Yeah. So I listened to the very first episode, and that one was really, the first couple episodes, they were really good. And the very first one, it's like, the episodes are like 35 minutes long.
Okay.
And so the first story was the majority of it, and then the last one that stayed with me throughout the night was only like 5 minutes long. It's like, you know, one of those very like 1-2 punch.
Quick to the point where it's
you're like, and it stays with you, you know what I mean?
No.
That kind of burn.
Yeah.
So that's what that was. So that's what I've been listening to. Podcasts, and I've been putting on a lot of older, since I've been with my family and stuff like that, I've been kind of playing DJ when it comes to music and stuff. So I kind of put on the music that I like, that they like also. So a lot of like old 60s, 70s, 80s. No, same old when it comes to what I listen to. We all just finished watching Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Season 3, which I personally loved. I loved the season. I will get into it a little bit. We just watched. What did we watch? We want to watch Child's Play, right? And we want to watch Midsummer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the new Ari Aster.
Yes, and we want to watch, even though we heard that it's bad, the Annabelle, right?
We did?
You want to watch Annabelle?
I do. I've heard that it's terrible, but
oh yeah. I mean, just to finish out.
I'm gonna. I the Conjuring franchise is something that I'm going to follow through with.
Oh, okay.
So like
I don't know if I'm on there with you.
No, it's okay. You don't have to be.
Yeah.
I decided a long time ago it's going to be one of those franchises that I'm gonna be. You know what? I'm going all the way through it because I like the way they portray Ed and Lorraine.
Okay.
And since they're gonna be in this one, I don't know how much they are, but
right.
I imagine that they will be in it quite enough, since it's set in their house. It looks like it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So that should be fun. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll wait till it comes out to the dollar movies. I don't know.
It seems to me more like that kind of movie where it's like, I don't know if I'd pay a whole $10 to go and watch it, but like,
Maybe that's how we should start rating things. I know we've said that before,
yeah,
but like maybe that's really how we should have like come out with an actual rating system. Be like buy or watch in theaters, watch in theaters like multiple times, wait for the dollar movies, own on DVD.
yeah, because I feel like there's those movies where you watch and as soon as you leave, you're like, oh, I need to own this, I need to watch this again, and you go and you go to the theater again to watch it.
Uh-huh.
And then there's times where you go and you're like, okay, it was good. I don't think I want to watch it again until it comes out again on DVD or whatever on streaming. But and then there's like I'll wait till the dollar movie,
right?
And then there's like I'll wait till Netflix, and then there's a never in my
Yeah,
life.
it's like, I don't
There's
ever
a
feel
flat
like
out
watching
never-
that.
I'm never watching this again. Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I noticed we didn't talk about last time. Well, I guess we'll get into that in a little bit. But Steven, you're next.
What about you, Bugs?
As for watching, I actually, because I know you can't tolerate it a whole lot.
It's like Portlandia for me.
Because I mean, it's referring to a Canadian show. Not so much. I mean, I know this is what I can compare apples to oranges, but more or less Trailer Park Boys. But I've fallen in kind of like love with the show called Letterkenny, which it started. Finding out its origins were really funny, and just to find out how he kind of started this show, and it's really interesting. It's
He
on
loves that
Hulu.
show the way we love Broad City.
Okay.
And it has, it's revolved around the whole town of Letterkenny, but it has its funny characters and how they wrote them and how they talk as actors and actresses. But it's 5 seasons. I finished all 5 seasons. The 6th season is coming out in October, and I'm like deadly, like really wanting to fill my void because I mean Canadian humor versus like anything else, like nothing can honestly compare to Letterkenny right now for me.
Okay.
Because their voices, the characters, the actors, and the stories, just he wrote it, he loved it. It's his birth child. There's nothing really right now that can compare to Letterkenny versus like as like for me to be like that dedicated to watch. What else did I decide to? I couldn't wait. Honestly, I'm sorry. Did watch the first episode of Good Omens.
I know,
Okay.
without me.
Oh wow.
I won't say too much on it. I just wanted to see the introduction. I wanted to see what not forces me to watch it, but like what catches me about this in particular of how many people it's actually made mad. So once I hear that, I was like, oh, it's got people, wanting to cancel Stranger Things. When I saw that article, I couldn't stop laughing because they're like, oh, we'll cancel Good Omens if you cancel, your biggest show right now. So it's got an interesting concept. I will give you that. It does take a lot of things and throw it by the wayside, and that's why I understand a lot of people are pissed. So we'll just keep it at that bare minimum. Reading, I'm making sure everything online now, I guess, that I'm reading is very real, because I'm not so much into falling into articles that are bunk and fake. So
You're like fact checking.
I fact check every article now and fact checked every. Because my brother brought up the other day, and it made it proof in the pudding was, make sure what you read is very factual and very, proven. Because there's a meme now going around that apparently they updated Gene Wilder's obituary, saying that he died this year.
He died several years ago.
Yes, exactly. So that's what puts more proof in the pudding.
And it's funny because isn't that part of the Mandela effect where they think that he died a long time ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that when you see those articles pop up, like every now and then, you'll see that one friend who wasn't, I guess, aboard that train. It's like, oh, this person, I mean, I did fall for that. I mean, that's when they posted when it was for Beastie Boys. Unfortunately, I did get captured in that. But as for reading, that does capture that. Watched and listened to. I keep re-listening to WTF Mark Maron's podcast because I kind of like hearing old stories, and mainly one that kind of restuck with me, and this is more or less more more or less along the lines of where I want to continue reading books or I want to get into it back again is reading Anthony Bourdain's, all of his books, honestly. And if Mark was listening, he would know exactly which ones he would be pointing them out. I think it's Kitchen Confidential. That's one of them, and I think the other one's like Raw. But all his stories sound great. That was like one of my favorite episodes of Mark Maron's podcast because he really lays into it, really puts it on the table, and really pretty much explains why he did the thing he did. I mean, not his, why he decided to take his life, but why he had a passion and where that went. So
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen Schitt's Creek? Because you heard you talking about Canadian humor and
is that a Canadian show?
Yeah.
Really? Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get into that show.
Same.
I don't
I'm like
know.
maybe it's just like a Canadian humor kind of thing where it's like I
mean, I would probably give it a couple episodes. I'll see. Because, I mean, I like Eugene Levy. It's the Eugene Levy.
Mm-hmm.
Who else?
It's his son. I don't know his name. I think Dan Levy. Catherine O'Hare, the Kevin McAllister's mom. And some girl.
I'm sorry. This dog is sleeping in weird positions. She's like a weird contortionist. So she's asleep on our couch, and she literally has her like legs way back, like off the couch. It's kind of hilarious. We need to take a picture that way we can put it in the on our page. That's too funny. This is us.
She's a mood.
For real.
All right, so I guess we can move on now. Like Jenny had said before, we all just binged Stranger Things season 3 this past Friday.
The day I got home.
Pretty much.
And I was kind of expecting the thing that I thought that was funny is I was expecting to watch maybe like the first 4 episodes and then we kind of take a break and then like do other stuff and then and then we come back and finish it up. No, we like sat there the whole time and just
pick her up because she will choke for some reason.
Gosh.
There was one time where her head was off the couch and she was choking because her head was like so it sounded funny, but I'm like, this dog.
You're the one who fell. Don't
Yeah.
look at me like that.
Exactly, like we thought we were gonna give it a break, give a couple episodes. We usually do. We tend to not like binge watch it like all in one sitting because we all want to kind of. There's not been a series of that in particular where we're just like, this is too much. But
yeah, we didn't even. I wasn't bored at all.
we kind of kept us
Yeah.
interested.
I feel like okay, like the first it's like any show where it's like the first couple of episodes. Not that they're boring, but they just kind of set up a lot. And you're like, okay, I think in the middle we were asking each other, how do you feel about the season? What do you think? And we're like, oh, well, yeah, it's okay. It's good. Like, I'm just waiting for stuff to happen. And then by the 3rd to 4th episode, it's like, oh, stuff happened. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, you're always waiting for the shoe to drop. And then you're like, okay, the shoe just
Freaking
flung out the window.
Yeah.
Yep.
I enjoyed it a lot. The whole thing. It definitely felt like a bigger budget. It felt more like blockbustery.
It felt like when they try to make a big budget sequel to like a really cool indie first movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's how this felt. Where it's like they took everything from the previous seasons and just like turned it all the way up, which I mean I enjoyed.
I really enjoyed all of the pop culture references.
Oh,
Mhm.
heck yeah.
I feel like a little more so than in the first 2. I feel like there were at least 5 references per episode.
Yeah.
Of like distinct ones,
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty cool.
It wasn't until like I feel like the later episodes, I guess I started paying attention to all those and I started capturing like every single one, and then. But no, this one I felt clung with a lot more than any of the seasons, honestly. Of course, the first one's gonna capture you; it's gonna reel you in. Second one, I mean, what?
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't continue watching. Like you guys had to pull me back on the board, and I was like, okay, well, let me just finish it all out and see what the hell's up about. And I think that's what it was. I think it just kind of fell off for me, but it wasn't. I mean, the last 2 episodes is what kind of reeled me back in. So just finishing that, and I was like, thank goodness. I mean, I was able to go ahead and start. We were all able to start season 3 like with no problem. And
season 3 also didn't feel quite. I know this sounds kind of weird, but for me, it didn't feel quite as dark, like as bleak, as the first 2 seasons. At least maybe the second one.
I feel like the first season, where it's like the first season, there's I think like only one little part where it's like like Dustin and the friends and stuff. That's like the comic relief, and that's kind of like the levity of the show.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Whereas like the Winona Ryder section of it is always so intense and so like
oh my god, this poor woman is going nuts.
Yeah, and
that was our capture.
There wasn't anything I feel like that this season, but I think I was okay with it because I feel like this season was like where they were all like in a different point in their lives.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, definitely. I feel like all of the characters they've all grown from the first season. So definitely they are not acting the same way that you saw them in the first season.
Yeah. Who's the MVP of this season, do we feel?
Wow.
What's Lucas's sister's name?
Erica?
Erica. You can't spell America
without Erica.
I mean, she was I felt like, she was totally underplayed, but like I kind of felt like she was going to possibly be thrown by the wayside just by a few observations. I was like, no, she probably might not be as important, but I don't know why they would. I mean, there's certain things, but I did like that is that I guess we're all going into spoiler territory, or not really, but episode. But I mean, she just kind of got really underplayed at the beginning, and you just really thought she wasn't going to be used that well. But then when she finished off, it was like, kind of.
Yeah, because I mean, the first couple of seasons, she's just kind of there for like a couple one-liners, and that's it.
That's it.
And then I kind of felt like that was what's going to happen again.
You almost forget. I forgot that until the second season that Lucas had a sister.
Oh, okay.
So like, I was like, oh, that's right, she has a sister, and then.
And all she wants is free samples.
I love it.
Give me my free samples,
But I don't know. I feel like for the most part, it was all pretty even. I feel like everyone got a fair amount of screen time. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And I feel like there wasn't. I feel like the big thing with season 2 that there was a lot of. Like
in season 2, I felt like Nancy and Jonathan got forgotten.
Yeah, where I was gonna say like not everyone's story was as important. Mm-hmm. I feel in this season it's like, and now that's what I was thinking was gonna happen again because when we get back with Nancy and Jonathan, it's kind of like they're working at this like this newspaper, and I was thinking, oh well, they're just gonna be kind of relegated off to the sidelines and not really be brought in as much, kind of like they were last season. Mm-hmm. And that's what I also thought was gonna happen to. Winona Ryder's character and David Harbour's character, and it's kind of because it's like everyone's so split up this season, but I love how once they get to like the last couple of episodes, they kind of streamline everything and everyone slowly converges, and it's like everyone's story pays off in the same way.
And I also like how, if you notice, like every one of their like groups, like everyone's kind of grouped off differently, right?
Yeah,
like
that's what I like.
Nancy and Jonathan, and they have their own thing, and then Hopper and what's her name?
Joyce.
I was gonna call her Joanna. Joyce have their own thing, also with that other dude.
With Smirnoff.
Yes, and then even the groups of kids have their own split. They're split off in their own thing, right? And they each have their own feels, like their own movie feels. Like one of them felt like it felt very Romancing the Stone like, and another one felt kind of Back to the Future like, another one felt kind of Lost World, Jurassic Park like. It was kind of cool. I liked that. I enjoyed that.
And that's my main concern was everybody gonna like eventually gonna see each other? Or were they eventually going to make it back to square one? And thank God, like, they kind of wrapped it all up. And a very nice package. It was like, and then they did, I was like, man, how are they going to fill in the whole conversations that nobody had seen anybody, and how are they going to do it?
I think that was
wrapped
done pretty well.
Wrapped it up fairly freaking nice. And that
pretty quickly,
pretty well, and actually pretty funny. I didn't feel like I was left with anything unanswered except for the one thing that you're supposed to be left with it out being unanswered.
Without getting to spoilers.
Right, exactly. So, except for the one thing that you're supposed to feel like that with, you feel pretty satisfied. Like, I feel pretty satisfied.
Oh yeah, there's been nothing really right now. I mean, just certain themes, honestly, in this season shouldn't be messed with, but somehow it makes its way back around. So
there were even some references in this movie that reminded me of a movie we hadn't talked about yet, which was Us, which we watched the beginning. Well, we watched several months ago.
Yeah.
We didn't get to talk about last time we were together.
Nope.
Recording, but how did you guys feel about Us?
Okay. The way I feel about Us is after watching it, I felt like I really, like, it was like I held it so high and it was really, like, I really loved it. And it's taken a little bit of time, and it's kind of like one of those movies where it's like the more you think about, I still like, but I feel like it kind of loses a little, like, you start putting stuff together and you're like, how did that happen? How did that, that didn't work for me. I think it's a good movie. I think looking at it now, I think I still like Get Out more personally. I think that one's still a better put together movie.
I feel like Us is one of those movies that I'm ready to rip apart. Eventually. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember wanting to really dissect it right away, and because we watched it literally before it had even come out in theaters, before it premiered.
Yeah, we went to an early screening.
It's been quite a while. So, has it even been released on Blu-ray yet?
I don't think it has.
It has?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, we need to get that and watch it again to see how it resonated, I guess. Other than that, I remember really loving it. Oscar, you're hurting the dog.
No. She's
biting
me, though.
I remember really loving it and feeling like, okay, like, there was a lot of really good references, like a lot of Hitchcock references. Definitely a lot of Hitchcock references. Oscar, what are you doing to the dog?
She's biting me.
You can tell that Jordan Peele really knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Like, he really knows what he's doing, and I'm really, really excited about it. Because we haven't had an awesome director like that in a long time.
No, not this impactful. And that's the weird thing is, honestly, like, aside from Ari Aster, taking the board of, like, spine-chilling kind of, we'll go and speak about that later, but I mean, as compared to Ari Aster, or just somebody who's able to bring that intensity to media and just take it apart by the wayside and just dissect on something that's spoken of, but we don't speak out loud about it, societal, like, norms or anything. But Us kind of took away again from what Get Out was. Two different stories, and just like Jordan Peele was like, take this concept we all kind of knew about that particular episode of The Twilight Zone he kind of took apart from. We just didn't know exactly what he was going to do. And when we saw it all in action, we were just like, I think there was only probably a few people left when we were there, but we all just sat there in shock and almost like awe, and just like, he has a lot to say. You don't have a whole lot if you want to go and be 3 hours or 4 hours freaking like Lord of the Rings and still have a story to say, but you don't miss anything. But I feel like he has a lot to say, and I feel like whatever next film he's got coming up, and he's gonna make it a trilogy, I think, or I don't know, but not like they're all connected, but a trilogy that he has kind of all just like
kind of like
race bound.
Like how I know that there's like a lot of directors like Lars von Trier where they have movies that aren't necessarily like sequels to another, but they are like in theme and like in the way that they're shot and the way they look. they're all really similar, so he kind of calls them like that collection.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I can see that. I can see where this would be part of a 3-movie collection.
Yeah, for Jordan Peele on this one, he did it brilliantly to the point where like I legit just forgot about that. I didn't even have it in my mind. I was like, hey, it's no longer there, but where is he going with this? Without giving, I guess, too much away, there was like certain things my sister did touch on, or should we dive into that?
I feel like
I feel like it's been long enough to where
Yeah.
we can talk
Okay.
about it.
So if you haven't seen Us, I think now would be a good time to maybe like tune out or like, I mean, really at this point, go watch it because it's
unless you don't care about spoilers, in which
Yeah.
case, stay with us.
yeah.
So one thing that my sister touched on is the Hands Across America thing. She touched on it, and it was weird because that is a very pinnacle point throughout this entire movie. The Hands Across America is very pivotal to like the action sequences or the sequences in order that they keep doing it.
Well, that's what the movie starts off with, right?
Yeah.
It starts off with the advertisement of a commercial of Hands Across America, and that happened in what, 80 what?
Let's see.
Well, I want to say like 86. I don't
Well,
know.
I mean, it was obviously before me because my sister was the one who was
86.
86. All right, cool. So yes, it happened during that time, and what I would assume it would say to a child is this is supposed to be something that's supposed to like be revolutionary, right? It's supposed to do something to change the world in some way, which the 80s was about a lot of the time. You know, you had Heal the World and Live Aid and what's the other thing that I can't think of it right now?
Feed the Children?
I meant to say We Are the World, not
We Are the
Heal the
World.
World. But that too. Yeah. So all of those types of things had, you know, a huge impact on the younger generation. And I think that's what that was supposed to say about the little girl at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Okay. And then your sister said what?
She said the reason why she felt this movie was basically kept it going, or they felt like it should have kept going, is that at that point in time, I don't know if anybody knows, but they actually never really raised enough money or really actually finished Hands Across America.
Like it never really happened the way they wanted it to?
Yeah, it never really ended exactly how they wanted it to, so...
It would just kind of like happen one day and that was it.
Yeah,
right?
it was
just
like
whatever.
Yeah, it never really raised enough money and never really finished the way it was supposed to, so...
So the way your sister kind of put it was like, that was a perfect example of how our generation kind of like left things unfinished.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, oh, that's an interesting way to look at things.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what happens in that movie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what that project was. It was like an unfinished project.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Where it's like, yeah, pretty much the experiment that happens underneath, like, you know, in the tunnels underneath America, it's pretty much like maybe the scientists didn't get what they were expecting, or it's like things didn't end up going the way they thought it would, so they just abandoned it and just left those people there to die.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Which is weird because, I mean, the twist is pretty much synonymous, and it's really interesting. It's a different take. I hear people saying it's very predictable. I don't very much agree that it's predictable because, I mean, if you go in with an open mind, I mean, you're not going to see that coming. You get on this roller coaster ride of, like, just trauma and possibly something else, and you just, like, it just kept you guessing.
I don't know if the predictability was so much that the movie was predictable. I think we all knew that it was going to kind of go that way. We just, you had, oh, yes. You had to wait till the...
Really?
Wow, Lucy, wow. So wow.
We had to wait to the end whether or not it was confirmed. Right?
Yes.
Sorry, guys.
She's just being a good girl.
So, that's all I gotta say about that. Do we have anybody watching right now?
It's in and out. I don't understand it. What's going on? We have one. Hello, one person.
Is one person watching?
Yeah.
I wonder if
I don't know what's going on.
what anyone has to say about Us.
I want to watch it
Movie.
again. I want to watch it again, definitely, and write stuff down. Be able to, like, be here in the comfort of my own home. Write stuff down, questions that I have, to see if it actually followed through with everything that I haven't built up in my mind.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think the way you think, Oscar, is you tend to think of movies over time and it kind of loses its luster.
Uh-huh.
For me, I tend to think of movies over time and I remember it better than it was.
Like, for me, it's like, I look back and there's little things where I'm like, where did they get those scissors? Like, why does everyone have those special, like, cool-looking scissors? Where did they get that? Where did they get those jumpsuits? Like, there's little things that kind of break down, and then, like, the part where Red's kind of telling Adelaide what happened, like, when they're in that classroom setting, and she's just kind of going through exactly what happened. To me, it's like, well, like, if you were to cut out parts of that monologue, I feel like the movie would have been better served just to be kind of more ambiguous of what really happened.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I think that this is a movie where it showed a little bit too much of it showed its cards too much. Where if you were left to think about how it all came together and then just always be like, trying to put all the clues together, it would have been more interesting.
See, like, and I'm feeling like we got those answers and I just forgot about where they came from.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. I can understand why you possibly want to see it again.
So what else did we watch this past, I guess, first half of the year that we hadn't talked about since?
Along with that, I think following, thinking we did go following that, I think we did see Shazam.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we saw Shazam. We definitely saw Captain Marvel, and we definitely saw The Last Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Who saw Dark Phoenix?
None of us.
None of us saw
Okay,
that.
so none of us have seen it. Do we want to?
It's so sad, but because this is really like what I think Fox was trying to show, or trying to like pit this as the end game of the X-Men franchise. At this point, it barely made as much as, I think the lowest grossing X-Men movie so far has been the Wolverine.
Uh-huh.
And they just recently, Dark Phoenix just recently made as much as the Wolverine made on its opening weekend.
Come on.
Yikes.
Like, I think that the Wolverine made about $65 million on its opening weekend. Dark Phoenix just made that much back.
Oh my god.
And for a movie that cost about $200 million to make,
Oh my god.
it's not the end game that they were really hoping for. But so I'm like, how bad is it? Like, how bad can it be? But then I've heard like that it's just like that they've changed. Like that movie is just like it's a perfect example of how the studio can like go in and just ruin a movie. Because like even like there are characters that like like Jessica Chansey's character is supposed to be a certain character, and then something happened with the rights to the characters. A lot of people think because in Captain Marvel they use the scrolls.
Right.
That at one point in Dark Phoenix they were gonna have the scrolls in there, so they had to like do rewrites to take them out and like like all this stuff like that. Like to me it's almost like the story behind it is probably way more interesting than the actual movie. And I really to me it's like I love finding out about
let's watch the making of Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, to me I really do. It's like like have you ever seen or there's like those documentaries like on like the documentary of the doctor what's it called the one I can't remember what it's called, but it's Dr. Monroe or something. The one with Val Kilmer.
Yeah.
How
the Island of Dr. Monroe.
Yeah, how the making of that movie is like has way more drama than the actual movie itself. Where it's like you watch those documentaries on like how like some guy signed blood magic and all this crazy stuff to get it made, and then he was like taken off the movie. And well, anyways, like it sounds like the way that the Dark Phoenix and the way that Disney kind of like threw them to the wolves, pretty much, ruined what could have been possibly a decent movie. I don't know.
Okay, is it even the kind of franchise that several years from now will become some sort of cult following?
Dark Phoenix,
or that version of the X-Men?
I don't think so.
No.
No,
I think it's gonna come back and it's gonna be seen as this is what superhero movies were before the MCU and before like this phase of superhero movies.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. I didn't hear any of that.
Okay, so let's talk about Shazam real fast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because it's not part of the MCU.
No.
Yeah.
And we all really liked it, right? I loved it.
I loved it.
I loved it.
I'm
It
actually
was
really
such a
excited
good
for it to come
time.
out on. I'm waiting for it to come out on DVD because I did love it that much.
It was so great. It was so fun. So fun. Good times.
It's like a perfect family movie.
It really is. It really, truly
It definitely
is.
picks up the tropes that you normally see as a superhero movie. It really pokes and prods at those, and it does it over well as a welcoming package. And I feel like apparently the only thing I got from it is, and it's everybody's like welcome aboard. It's like because now apparently there's been the people who don't really like Wonder Woman, who really don't like Aquaman.
Those people need to get the fuck out.
But you tell them about Shazam, and they were like, "Oh, well, that's basically the better DC movie of them all." And I'm like,
Which is funny because speaking of Shazam, the character, I knew literally 1% of that whole thing. I know 1% about Shazam.
Right.
You know what I mean? You, as a comic book person, knew like what?
pretty much everything up until where they were going for the story. I didn't know what story what they were going to tie into, if they were going to bring in the new stuff, if they're going to talk about the old stuff, if they were going to keep his name, if they were going to even mention anything verbatim. But I was pretty much on the whim of exactly possibly doing New 52 because
I feel like you could pick out literally you can pick out the things that were bad in that movie, and it was some of the acting, and then other than that, the rest of it, I was totally on board with it.
I feel like it's one of those movies where it's like the bad guys are just bad guys, and there's no like
Lucy.
like it's just a good movie. It's just a good it reminded me a lot of like an old fashioned. It sounds weird, but like an old fashioned superhero movie, like.
And then what happened? Oh.
Okay. That was pretty much a spoiler review. She gave away everything.
Damn, Lucy, that was hardcore.
And then what happened with the big rubber chicken? I know.
Okay, back on track.
Alright, so
Lucy says no.
Other than that one,
you were saying, Oscar, how it felt like
a classic, like it almost felt like the old Raimi's Spider-Man, like that type of thing, where it's just like, it wasn't to where like they had like there wasn't a whole bunch of depth to it, but at the same time it's like that whole theme of family and stuff. It was just a good movie. I just liked it. It was a good time.
Okay, so now we get into the MCU. Let's start with Captain Marvel. I liked it. I liked it because, to be completely honest, it had some of the least action sequences compared to other Marvel movies, and I like stuff like that. I like more dialogue in my film.
You like the more like quippy, banter,
connections and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Connections between characters. And that's what I liked about it. That's why I personally liked it.
Okay.
Oscar?
I like. Okay, to me, it's like a 70%.
Okay.
Because I feel like there's a part that. Okay, after I watched it, I felt like that was good. That was nice. And like you were saying, Jenny, like I'm the type of person I think after I watch a movie, I let it sit, and then like I start seeing things that like the flaws and stuff. And I just kind of feel like, and I watched it again because it recently came out on Blu-ray and streaming, and I watched it again, and I was like, there's something about it that I don't like, and I didn't know what it was until I kind of figured. I'm like, I think it's the fact that I think the MCU didn't have like that go-to female superhero. Mm-hmm. Like we all wanted it to be Black Widow, but Black Widow's not that hero. She's you know, for lack of word, she's you know the big B in the you know in the Marvel superhero universe or whatever, and they wanted someone to compete against Wonder Woman since Wonder Woman did so well. I feel like they try to make Captain Marvel that, and it's kind of like I feel like
it wasn't. It definitely wasn't.
I feel like
I don't know who the hell it was that were like, oh, it's better than Wonder Woman, and I was like, get the fuck out.
Yeah. To me, it's like Captain Marvel's like Fetch.
Stop trying to make
Stop
it
trying to
happen.
make it happen.
Stop trying to make Fetch happen. It's not gonna happen. Lol. I think it's hilarious that when you said Fetch, my brain was like
dogs?
No, my brain was like Fetch. The movie? And then I was thinking
Fletch?
Yes! And I was thinking, is he trying to say Fletch? And you immediately got the reference, Steven. Okay.
So,
Today's an off day for me.
No, but I mean, I completely understand exactly what you're talking about. Like, trying to make it happen. Now, yes, I'm completely biased when it comes to, I'll admit, I'm very biased, but I at least wanted to give, there's multiple movies I want to give a fighting chance to. I personally gave Endgame possibly another chance to possibly win me over, and everybody's like, well, give Captain Marvel one and see where it goes from there. Captain Marvel to me was exactly what I expected it to be. Basically, there wasn't going to be much setup, there wasn't going to exactly be much premise, there wasn't going to be exactly anything I didn't already know that people by the wayside or not. I mean, there's the people who don't really know too much about her. That's great. They'll love it. But people who kind of know way too much of exactly what this cinematic universe is doing, this movie didn't do anything different. Basically gave A to B and gave us C automatically. We knew exactly where it was going, and I just kind of, like, by the wayside, I was like, there was nothing I wasn't excited about. It was just, it is what it is. It's just flat out A to B solution.
It is what it is. Like, I feel like if you go in with this expectation of it being a great movie, you're gonna be let down.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we all knew that we needed to talk about. We all knew that we needed to watch Captain Marvel in order to watch Endgame.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And here I was thinking that she was gonna be a huge part of that movie.
And I think everybody else did too.
Yeah, and I was really for it. I was like, okay. And then
she's in there for like what, a good?
She's probably in there for like a whole
15 minutes.
15 total minutes of screen time
out of 3 hours.
Yeah. Lame.
You know what though? I think I'm okay with that, just because I feel like if they had gone with her being the person that saves everyone at the very end and it's all about her, I think I would have been really pissed off, because it's like, oh, we get one movie and then now she's taking over
the
everything,
which is not what it was at all.
Which
so,
I think I'm glad it wasn't.
Right.
So
let's not get into whether our loyalties lie with DC or Marvel. Let's just talk about how we genuinely felt about Endgame. Oscar.
Okay, if I were to give, because I think right afterwards, and I kind of stuck by it. Right afterwards, I started looking at Endgame, how I felt about Kill Bill Volumes 1 and 2, where I felt like it really is that kind of movie with Infinity War, where it's like, I feel like you can't have Endgame without Infinity War, and it's not so much which one's better or which one's worse. It's just like, how did they go together?
A unit, okay.
And like, the way I see Infinity War and Endgame is kind of like how I saw Kill Bill Volumes 1 and 2, where I felt like Kill Bill Volume 1 had way more action and it was a better...
The scenes were more memorable.
Yeah, it's more memorable. It has like more of the iconic stuff, and I feel like there isn't a lot of downtime. It's like those, 2.5 hours will go by quick. And I felt like I would probably watch Infinity War more, and I feel like Endgame is kind of like Volume 2, where it has so much more of the emotion, it has so much more of the story.
I agree with you.
And I feel like it's one that I probably wouldn't watch as much, but I feel like, because I watched it again when I went down to Brownsville with my parents, and I feel like even though the beginning is slower and it does kind of take a while to set things up, it really does, like, I saw way more of how it all sets itself up, and like it pays off to itself at the end, and it pays off to all the movies that came before it. So I feel like I liked, on an entertainment level, I liked Infinity War more, but as like completing the whole and like the way to end the whole saga, I think it did it really well. So it's like about a 90% to me.
I agree with you. And I really do think that it definitely follows the Act 2 sort of sense of that film as a whole. It's like, all right, Act 1, Infinity War, intermission. Act 2, Endgame. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's how a lot of people tend to look at it. If you look at weird, kind of segue-ish sort of analysis way to look at it, metaphor, but it's kind of like a musical, right? So like when people know a musical or think of a musical, all of the music that they remember from that musical is from the first act. And it's all the big parts are there, and then the second part of it is kind of where what you said, like the deep depth story, the conclusion. That's what wraps everything up. Obviously, that's where all the solutions are. So it's kind of like you're gonna be with the whole thing from beginning to end, right? But only the really invested people, which I think the whole franchise had most people invested all the way through. Are going to watch the whole thing from beginning to end.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm kind of with you in the sense that I will watch the first part more. I remember Infinity War more than I remember Endgame. While Endgame was good, I liked it, but it didn't I didn't cry the way I cried in Infinity War. I cried in Infinity War. Not like an idiot, but I was like, I definitely got choked up during the Snapchat.
The Snapchat is kind of like, where you're like, oh.
Yeah.
They're all going.
No,
it's like, I remember during Infinity War feeling like, oh God, guys, I don't think this is going to end well. We're not doing so good. But the second time watching Endgame, I saw how, because I mean it's just so long and there's so much to take in the first time you watch it. The second time I saw where they put little things in, like that one part where Tony and Pepper are talking, and he's like, I just figured out time travel, and she's like, you what? Like right now? Like you just did it right now?
Like just now.
And he's like, yeah. He's like, but I don't even have to get back into this. We have a good life right now. I can just go and throw this in the river, and be done with it. And he's like, and then I can go to bed. And then she says something like, yeah, but could you rest? And then at the very end where it's like, what happens, and she's like, okay, you can rest. It's like, like that got me. The second time it really like, okay, I saw where they were going with this.
I know this is going to sound really weird and probably very morbid, but I feel like the way, maybe I shouldn't say this. I'm going to say it anyway.
Just say it.
Okay.
Upset James.
So.
James is in the chat.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So.
I'm kidding.
While I don't want to upset anybody who's been through this kind of scenario, but it's, oh God, okay, please forgive me. It's like a sudden.
Triggered.
It's like a sudden death, rather than a death that has been a long time coming.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So it's like someone who's been sick for a while you know that they have a progressive disease, and you know what the end result is going to be, and so you have a long time to grieve, right? You have a long time to grieve. You're sad for a long time, but you're being able to take in all those moments with that person until it's time for them to go. Rather than a sudden death that just happens and then you're all shocked and you have trauma because...
You have to deal with everything.
Yes, you have to deal with everything at once. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's what I felt like Endgame was to me. I feel like, okay, we know that Tony Stark is this has got to happen. Something's got, you know what I mean?
Like to complete the whole like story, that's the way it's probably gonna go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So in order for it to actually be justified, that's just what has to happen. What has to happen? That's what happens to martyrs. You know.
Yeah.
So that's what happened to him, and that's I was prepared. So maybe that's why I wasn't like completely heartbroken.
Yeah.
Is James like, shut
no,
up?
No, he's still listening. He just triggered and we can't stop laughing at that. No,
so.
I mean, as an overall whole, I kind of will. I mean, that's exactly how. That's a better analogy than any of us would have. He said he understands you now. That's better. That's a better analogy I would have given it because I feel Kill Bill is like the pieces, the chess pieces being set up.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, all right, we're gonna go ahead and play the game now, and then part 2 is exactly the long played game. We knew exactly the outcome was gonna be, and it was a long time coming for me, though. Honestly, I kind of felt like everybody was against the gate. Honestly, because like the people who I had were the people who are mainly in who didn't have really much contracts up or anything. That's mainly where I was leaning towards. I was like, so we're gonna go this route. Let's see who really goes out. So then they just, when it kind of just pinned it to one, I was like, there's a lot more people that actually really needed to go because this universe just really needs to wrap itself up. And if they're gonna make, they are gonna make possibly another second phase where they're just gonna carry on with whatever they have left. I don't think it's gonna be. I feel it's gonna be. This is what we got in Infinity War. Mm-hmm. The second phase of this is just gonna be Endgame. It's not gonna be as strong because we're not gonna have those same characters. We're not gonna have those same stories anymore. We're not gonna have that pull. We might have just one person, and right now he's leading the way. Is I think Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. He might be like the only pull for anybody to catch it.
They still have. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like. Can you really say like the ones that they still have, like Scarlet Witch, Doctor Strange,
I think Black Panther though.
Black Panther, yes, I can see that where it's like, and Spider-Man, where it's like those two I think are like would be the fan favorites and like stuff. But it's kind of like it is gonna be kind of weird to see the franchise with new faces, and not the faces that like the main 6 that we've always come to go for an Avengers movie.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I feel like what they could end up doing is like Phase 4 just being like a whole bunch of like them just not getting rid of, but like them like letting the old guard go away so they can kind of make new stuff. Because I mean they've just gotten Fantastic Four, they've just gotten the X-Men, and they've asked people have been asking like, okay, when are you gonna put them in? They're like, well, give us 5 to 10 years. And I was like, 5 to 10 years? It's like, well, yeah, I mean, stuff like that takes time.
Yeah, but you know that those 5 to 10 years are going to come by and come quick, like...
Yeah.
Like, nobody's business.
I mean, I think the reason why they're giving it that much time is, like, I mean, look how Dark Phoenix has done. Like, they kind of want that taste out of people's mouths so they can kind of, like, just refresh everything. Except for Deadpool.
I feel like...
Because they're going to have Deadpool in there.
Fantasy film fantasy, whatever, has become that kind of thing where people need to constantly fix. Like there needs to be the absolute version of Fantastic Four where every other Fantastic Four version is put to shame.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I believe it. It's kind of like we were saying about Game of Thrones last time, where it's like, once George R.R. Martin puts out the rest of his books, there's going to be the ultimate version of Game of Thrones TV show.
Right.
So.
Right.
All right, and so we went through all the superhero movies. What do we got next?
The last 4 that I see here. Terminator.
Oh yes, our thoughts on the Terminator trailer. What was that thing that you had seen though, where you said you saw a teaser saying that yes, he will be back?
Yeah, there's a possibility that they're saying. I mean, the 3 people are. It's a leading femme fatale. It's pretty much Sarah Connor, and then the 2 new ones, along with another model of a T1000.
So Linda Hamilton's gonna be
Yep.
Sarah Connor, which is freaking amazing.
Yep.
Because let's face it, Judgment Day is the best Terminator
It
movie.
is. It is.
It's the best Terminator movie.
Because I feel like everything is trying to live up to that. Like,
Yeah.
Genesis couldn't do it. I mean, I think they're now saying Genesis has no longer anything to do with any storyline.
Yeah,
It's completely moot. It's gone. It's out of, like, even, what is the one after that? The Christian Bale one?
Salvation.
Oh, Salvation.
Like, it's, like, Salvation lives more than that.
You can kind of tell. It's funny how I think people have gotten more into, like, I think the way that they're doing movies now and sequels is it's so funny how we've gotten to the point now where I think, like, it used to be where we'd always try to make it to where everything was this long continuity where it's like, oh, if there's, part 4, part 5, or part 6, we have to make sure that everything that we do after that comes, pretty much goes in line with it. And now we've gotten to the point now where we're like, okay, well, Terminator 1 and 2 were the best ones. Let's just, pretend like the other ones didn't even happen and this is a sequel to Terminator 2. Like,
yeah.
We're so ready to disregard the ones that we know that didn't work.
Right.
Which is, I'm actually okay with it.
I'm totally fine with that too, to be completely honest. Maybe, I don't know, I'm not thinking of the full picture because I'm trying to think of a scenario where it would be like, whoa, what about part 2? But I can't think of anything right now. But yeah, so I was telling Steven that I would absolutely love Furlong to come back as John Connor because I loved him in that role, even though he's got his issues.
Yeah.
I mean, the actor's got his issues, but I don't know what he's been up to lately. I don't know if he's got his shit together or whatnot. Maybe he will come back. I don't know. But that's kind of what the teaser alluded to a little.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool. I mean, I'd be up for that. I mean, whether he has, whether he's put together or not, I think as long as they can get him in there with him to do a couple scenes, I mean, I think he's still acting. I don't know.
I think he is. But in like very obscure things.
Well, if not, they can always get Jonathan from Stranger Things.
I was just saying that. Yeah, I was like, he should totally be John Connor. He can totally pull that off, I think.
He looks like Edward Furlong.
I think he looks just like him. I mean, similar.
Yeah.
So, yes. I don't know. I'm really excited because I really hope that Schwarzenegger has a bigger role in this one than the other ones that he's been in. More like cameos.
Yeah.
I hope that he's legit a good chunk of this.
Yeah.
Of this movie. I am actually really excited about this. I haven't been excited about a Terminator movie since Terminator 3, and then when I watched Terminator 3, I was no longer excited about it.
Yeah.
So yeah. Excited.
I agree.
What else are we waiting for? Oh, we're waiting for Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
That one, oh my god, like the teaser trailers that they had released were freaking fantastic. We already know who's attached to it, so we know it's in good hands because he really honestly hasn't steered us wrong. He's an Academy Award winner now.
Mm-hmm.
He's an Oscar winner, so he's really out there as a person. I mean, it took him freaking this long to get there, and definitely to be recognized. So, I mean, to get something of our childhood that even the old podcast episode that we did, we opened up with the freaking stories that we really liked, and this happened to be one of them.
Now, is Guillermo del Toro, is he directing it, or is he just, like, producing it?
I think it's a little bit of both. I'm hoping he's, like, on board for it. But
Let me look at...
I'd be so up for it if it was, like... Because, I mean, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is like an anthology. So it's like if they made it as if it was an anthology, if they were to have different directors
Directors doing it,
yeah, kind of like how they did VHS, I would be totally up for that because I think that each of those stories can have like a totally different feel, a totally different look.
Yeah, he's produced it.
He's producing it.
The person who's directing it is Andre Obrador, which he's done not recognizable movies.
He did Troll Hunter.
That was with Gizmo. That's how he firstly got introduced. And Troll Hunter, I had heard, was not too kid friendly. It was very not too kid friendly, but it was basically the introduction of each other, and that's how they got to it. So,
The Autopsy of Jane. Jane Doe. Sorry.
Is that the one that just recently came out?
Yeah. 2016.
So he's done quite a bit.
Sorry, guys.
And then he's got another project coming up after this one. So, I mean, that one in particular, so Guillermo has written the stories, and he's pretty much every single story that he's written has actually been really freaking fantastic. Pan's Labyrinth, he's done pretty much, I think, both first and second Hellboy. We dare not talk about the remake, but eventually the third one was going to
Did any of us see the remake?
I
didn't.
Unfortunately did.
You did? Okay.
As a purist of the first two, I will say kind of steer away because it's very in your face, very feeding the audience of this is what it should be, this is what it is, and if you don't like it, then there's the door. But it's not how any movie should honestly like hold your audience.
Yeah.
Like that very much accountable, but like at least have it very much by the galls and be like, this is what it should be.
Yeah, so Guillermo did the screenplay.
Okay.
So anything he's really done, like written wise, he's been very successful. He's been Pan's Labyrinth, The Shape of Water, frickin' Hellboy 1 and 2. I mean, I think he was also on board for possibly even more of Tales from the Crypt. Or even more, he was in line, I think, for even Twilight Zone at one point. There's a lot of things he was in projects for, but he just never really fell through. I mean, everything kind of somewhat fell by the wayside, and he was like, well, I need something.
Side Hills.
Aww.
I'm still not over
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, that would have been amazing.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, he would have been, like I said, he would have wrote an amazing story. Everybody would have been aboard, and now I guaranteed whatever company had taken it, I'm sure Konami and Hideo is like fucking both kicking themselves.
You think that they scrap stuff like that because they know that that's going to be like the be-all end-all of that franchise, and then after that, nothing is going to live up to that?
No, I feel like because
they should have wrapped it up.
The whole story about PT and Silent Hills is that the creator who was making Silent Hills and the publishing company Konami were already kind of like butting heads on their other series, Metal Gear Solid, and like pretty much at that point they just had I think Hideo just left the company because he was like, I can't work for them. They're ruining all his IPs and they're ruining all their stuff, so it's just like he had to walk away. And it got to the point now where it's like, I mean, they didn't even keep going with it, you know.
No.
I feel like they should have at least finished the game, or at least I don't know how far it was along, but anyways, going back to Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, we've already seen the trailer. Do you think it lives up to what we can imagine it to be?
I think so. I think so far, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The premise so far, and if they're not gonna give us more, then I'm okay with that.
It kind of looks like what they did with Goosebumps, right?
But in a real scary way.
In a serious scary way, not in a campy, like, Fox Kids kind of way.
It's like what RL couldn't do. It's basically what they could do. And reading these stories growing up, these kind of stuck with you.
Yeah.
So once you saw the imagery,
the images stuck with you more than anything else. Yeah. Like those images are burned in my mind.
Yeah, but it's funny because if you read the stories, they're scary. Like they do really stick with you. But I think it's the fact that you have this image to go with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that it's kind of like it just turns it up to like 11, where it's like you really honestly tie that image to that story, and that's what is rolling around in your brain.
Yep.
You know? And I feel like if they can get that right, man, you know,
It's gonna be intense.
it's gonna be intense. And it's like, okay, I wonder if it's gonna be PG-13.
No, I think what is it? I think it's rated R.
Is it?
I mean, if it's
That would be amazing.
I don't know if I'd like that just because it is supposed to be a kids thing.
Well, the kids.
No, PG-13. There might be a rated R cut eventually.
I mean, I'd be up for that too. If there was a cut that was rated R,
That would be cool.
that'd be cool.
That would be real cool. How long have we been on?
An hour and 30. No, an hour and 30.
Oh.
But
We've gone
live. Yeah, an hour and 30. Sorry.
Well,
James was there for a little bit, then he had to go back to work.
for a while, we were just like discussing dog farts. So. Anyways, we can probably wrap it up.
You want to end it with 30 years ago today?
There wasn't really much I could find, but what I did today, wow, yeah, that's a pretty pinnacle right there. 1986 and 30 years ago, Boy George is being treated for heroin addiction and music.
Wow.
And the other one in the 90s was the first Three Tenors concert. I don't know how to read, but I do know Luciano Pavarotti. Baths of, don't know how to say that. But apparently he recorded his best record there. So that's good.
30 years ago.
30 years ago. Film and history, let's look at that. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm really bad with names, it looks like it. Wow. Really? Nothing? Okay. No, just people about in the 80s that people got crowned Miss Universe 29th. And then somebody else got crowned Miss Universe.
That's not news. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's not really anything.
What was the hit song right now?
The hit song?
In 1989.
Let's see if they got that. They don't have that.
Really?
What?
Billboard doesn't have it?
Wait.
Billboard.
Ooh, archive. Oh, during this time? Sorry, I was looking at another day. During today, which is what? July.
Let's go with the 8th.
The 8th.
Good Thing by Fine Young Cannibals.
Okay. I don't know what the song that is, but I know
Yeah,
who
I
they
know.
are.
Really?
Yeah, they're the ones that sing. It drives me crazy.
Wait, what did I say?
Okay.
Oh, no, sorry. Wait.
Yeah, you
I
got
read
it.
it right. Okay,
Good
yeah.
thing. And then last week was Baby Don't Forget My Number by Milli Vanilli.
Oh my god.
Some fake band that they
Girl,
were
you
robbed.
know it's
They
good,
were
you
robbed.
know It's good, you know.
Girl, you know it, girl, you know.
And then next week is If You Don't Know Me By Now.
If you don't know me by now. Simply Red.
We don't have the rights. We don't have the rights.
Right?
No, yeah. Simply Red.
Yeah. So, pretty much, nothing that big was going on 30 years
Nothing
ago.
really.
Pretty much. Wah, wah.
It's sad, but like,
Jenny Oscar was already 1. Jenny was getting ready to turn 1.
I'm 2.
And Steven is getting ready to turn 2.
Yeah, nothing really happened. We've had every other year has been very active, or every other month has been very active. Unfortunately, this one is not.
It's the summer.
This is
It's
true.
the summer.
I wonder, like,
Let me see.
not something to look up right now, but I wonder what the summer song was.
Oh, yeah. The
'Cause
summer of
Milli
89.
Vanilli. Milli Vanilli.
Summer of 89. What was happening in 89? Did a Full House premiere in 89?
So looking at the billboard, it could have been "Drive Me Crazy" by Five Young Cannibals, "Like a Prayer,"
Really?
Madonna, "I'll Be There for You" by Bon Jovi, or "Forever Your Girl" by Paula Abdul.
Ooh, the summer movie of 1989, the highest grossing? Batman!
Woo! Okay, that's something.
That's something. Came out 2 weeks from now, but it was the highest grossing movie of 1989. Its army of toys and tie-ins ushered a current era of comic book blockbusters. It was the start of its time, I tell you.
Cool, man.
The one following up was...
Is the Keaton Batman that one you have?
Yeah, the ones on the shelf? Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. That's it.
Excellent.
Excellent. All right, guys. Well, I guess that is our show because we've been going for about an hour or so.
That's what happens when we don't have viewers. We don't have people wrangling us in. We're just
I
like,
know.
blah, 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 blah,
And I shared everything. Where are you people?
So yeah, if you're listening to this after the fact when we're not live, we're trying to make it a thing to go live every Sunday around 7 or so. It could be a little bit later, but we do want to try and make this more of a thing. So if you're free on Sunday nights at 7, feel free to head onto YouTube and listen to our podcast live. You get to hear all the little things that we talk about before the show, a little bit after the show,
and dog farts.
Yeah, we were looking up reasons why Jenny's dog's farting so much. So you can be a part of that. Make sure you guys like and subscribe and go to our Instagram, our Twitter, our Facebook. If there's anything that you guys want us to discuss, make sure you leave it in the comments. And go to iTunes, leave us a review if you have the chance. I have been Oscar.
I'm Jenny.
And I'm Bugs.
Let's go watch a movie, guys.
Yeah, let's go watch a movie. All right. So we are the New Nostalgia Podcast, and make sure you guys stay classic.
Stay classic. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.